Hello, my friends. Welcome into another Coach's Corner. I am super excited to welcome Julie to the conversation today. It is going to be a fun conversation talking about women's hormones and pelvic health, a topic that we touched on a little bit on Monday if you guys watched the YouTube video, but we're really going to dive deep today. So welcome in, Julie.
Thank you for having me. I'm so glad to come and talk about this. Sometimes it can be a touchy topic to talk about. So I love to come and take away the taboos about this subject.
Yeah, tell us a little bit about how you got started in pelvic health.
Well, my journey started when I had my own problems. When I had my first daughter, I started having leaks when I worked out. I was doing ultimate frisbee, so a lot of running and changing directions, but also when I was sneezing or laughing too hard. And I was a physical therapist, and I decided to specialize as a pelvic floor physio because I didn't really know about it, even though I could have been a specialist already. This is not a subject that we talk a lot about in school. And I decided that it was important that somebody did. So I decided to take that cause and go back to university and specialize. And I haven't stopped because when women live with those symptoms, it often changed their lives. It changed their mindset about working out or even going out with friends, changes how we do things. So when women find solution to that, it changes their lives. So it's really rewarding for me also to help women with those symptoms.
Yeah, for sure. It is a life changer if you can fix it. And it doesn't take too much, to fix these things if we're really focused. So let's dive in. Tell us, what is the pelvic floor? Like, let's start there because, I have an idea, but maybe it's not quite right.
No, well, a lot of people don't know about the pelvic floor. When I talk about it, I need to explain what it is. So, if you don't know what it is, it's normal. We don't talk about this part of our body. The pelvic floor is a group of muscle that is at the bottom of your pelvis. So here I have a woman's pelvis. And, the elephant ears that we see here are where we put our hand when we are waiting. And under here are the sit bones. Sorry, we are in a mirror, so I have trouble. So those are the sit bones where we feel our bones when we are seated on the chair. And if I put my model on its back, everything that you see in red is the pelvic floor. The pelvic floor is a group of small muscles that are under their pelvis, and it has different roles. So because there are a lot of them, they don't do all the same things. But some of them are there to prevent having urine leaks, so they will close the urethra to prevent having leaks. Some of them are a little bit longer, and they will help with posture. They work with our abdominal muscles, our back muscles, and also our breathing muscles. So they all work together to hold our posture better and to hold our posture when we lift something heavy, so we don't have leaks and that we can do it without having pain. Another thing that the pelvic floor does is also support our organs, because in our pelvis, well, there are our different organs like our bladder, our uterus, our rectum. So all those organs rely on our pelvic floor. So our pelvic floor holds them to prevent having them going down into the vagina, which we call a prolapse. And the last function of our pelvic floor is orgasm. Because our pelvic floor attaches to our clitoris, they are important muscles to attain orgasm. So a lot of women who feel the change, and they cannot attain orgasm, it's important to look at the pelvic floor to see if those muscles are the problem in this situation.
There is so much. Oh my gosh, so many directions and so many questions are like floating around in my head right now.
I know.
It's all so connected to everything from the breath to the bladder. I mean, it's the whole body, the whole center of the body.
Yeah.
And you've got all those organs, which it's heavy, it's got to hold up so much. And you showed in your diagram, it's not bone that's holding it up. So it's literally muscle, right?
Well, the bones also help. So depending on your posture, if I open my pelvis here, I wasn't ready for this. Something dropped on the floor. So right now, what I did, you were seeing this, the elephant ears. So if I'm showing you from the side as if I cut the body in half, now we're seeing the bladder, the uterus, and the rectum in the back. And our pelvic floor is kind of a hammock under everything. And here in the front, what you see in blue right now is the pubic bone. So the bone that is right in front, if you touch your abs, and then the bone that you touch in front is your pubic bone. Your pubic bone shouldn't be like in front of everything. It should be a little bit under. So your pubic bones helps also to hold your bladder.
Okay.
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 So yes, your pelvic floor, but if your posture isn't right, you're always like bringing in your bum, and you don't your if your posture is not right, then your bone is not helping your muscles, and then there's even more weight on your pelvic floor. I often say the pelvic floor is often the victim. We point fingers at it because it's muscle, so we should strengthen it, but sometimes we need to help it, correct our posture a little bit, and also make sure that the other muscles that work with it work well. The pelvic floor, where it is, we right now my model is meant to show the pelvic floor, but here we have the abdominals. In the back, we have the back muscles. They need to work too. So if our posture is a bit laid back, then our abdominals are not working as much, and then the pressure goes more on the pelvic floor. So we need to make sure that we address the posture before we start strengthening our pelvic floor, because our pelvic floor cannot do it all. It needs to work with the teammates.
No, it really, really can't. And then as we age, there's something to be said about youth, right? A 20-year-old's pelvic floor is a lot different than a 50-year-old's pelvic floor.
Yes, well, as menopause arrives, what changes? I am sorry, my dog wants to go out. I hope she'll understand that she cannot right now. But what changes is the circulation. So we have a little bit less circulation in this area, and it doesn't close the urethra as much. I am so sorry.
You can go let the dog out if
Are
you
you
need
sure?
to.
I'm so
Yeah.
sorry.
Go ahead. No worries. This is just completely fascinating. We'll take a pause, but I can tell you that I think this is completely fascinating as we're wrapping up the whole hormone month talking about pelvic floor. So yeah.
I'm so glad I don't have pajamas. Yes, you would have seen that.
No, you're good. You're good.
Yes, I was saying that as we age, the circulation changes, so it doesn't collapse as much, the urethra. So we rely a little bit more on our pelvic floor. So sometimes you won't have symptoms when you're younger, but your pelvic floor might not be as in shape as what you thought. But as you age, the hormones that change will ask a little bit more of your pelvic floor, and then if it's weak, it will show a little bit more.
Yes.
And you are right, the muscles are not the same, but there's the pelvic floor is affected a lot by hormonal change in this area, because this is an area where hormones have a big impact. So for sure, it is. There's a lot of things that can change with the change in the hormones.
Yeah. So as we move into perimenopause, menopause, what should we be doing, in your opinion, to help ourselves?
Well, I guess the first thing that I tell everybody that I help is to reconnect with their body. What we often forget in our more modern world is to listen to what our body is saying. And we search for a solution to a symptom. For example, if we have leaks, if we search on Google, or if we have friends, they will tell us to do Kegels or to strengthen our pelvic floor, which, as I told you, if your abdominals are not doing their job, if your posture is not quite right, you might be doing Kegels for nothing. Your pelvic floor might be very strong and trying to hold everything because nobody's doing their job. So the pelvic floor, being the last resort, being down there, might be working overtime. So sometimes what you want is just to change a little bit the posture, change a little bit the way your other muscles are working, and you don't even need to do Kegels or strengthening. So the first thing you need to do is really reconnect with your body and looking, when are you having leaks? When does it happen? And then, you can assess what you're eating, if it has a link with it, to really start from within. So start from what your body is telling you, and then we can build from that. If you search for a quick exercise, well, it might be not be the right exercise for you. Kegels can work, but one third of people do them wrong. So when they do them wrong, they weaken their pelvic floor. They often bear down instead of lifting up. Um, and also, Kegels are not for everybody. If your pelvic floor is not weak or it's just overworked, then Kegels won't help you and will often create pain. Because if I am already like crunched like this in my bicep, and I ask you to do even more exercise, at one point my bicep will say, well, I'm a bit tired,
Yeah.
and it will give me cramps. So the pelvic floor can give pain also this way. So it's important to really reconnect with your body first to learn what your body really needs.
Yeah, for sure. I totally agree with that. Do you use any kind of assistance with other mechanisms, as far as, like, I know we can do Kegels if we want to, and you're saying, work on your posture, your breathing, how your bones are sitting. But is there anything else? The reason I'm asking is because I was listening to a podcast on pelvic floor, and they were talking about using a ball. Do you know what I'm talking about here?
Well, there's different balls.
Yeah, I'd never
um,
heard of this before.
well, there's different things. So I don't use a lot of props because I
Okay,
want to work from within first. There are different machines that you can use, even with stimulation, and that you can put inside your vagina and try to contract all over it. But when you do that, you're not connected to your body; you're connected to the machine,
gotcha,
and you are strengthening your pelvic floor, and you're not even sure yet if you need to strengthen it or not. There
gotcha.
are weights that you can put in and that can also help strengthen your pelvic floor. But I must say that, I've been doing pelvic floor health for 13 years now, and I've never used weight, even for people that were running marathons,
Mhm.
because what we want is our pelvic floor to be able to hold the weight of our body and not necessarily add in more weight. It's a postural muscle. So as our back muscles, we don't really put weight for our back. Our back is supposed to hold our body. The pelvic floor should do the same. I use balls to massage the pelvic floor, so that's why I'm like, oh, there's different kind. We can go different direction
Yeah,
with
yeah,
with
yeah.
the description of a ball. Um,
I
but
just thought that was
what
so
I use
interesting.
what I use with women is really the breath to reconnect
Okay.
with their pelvic floor. And I've watched one of your videos about how you made women connect, and you were right. When you breathe in, your diaphragm, your breathing muscle moves with your pelvic floor. So when you breathe in, your diaphragm goes down because air comes in, and your pelvic floor goes down. So it should be relaxing. And when you breathe out, your diaphragm comes back up because it pushes the air out, and then your pelvic floor comes back up. And this is when you want to do your strengthening if you need it. So at
Gotcha.
first, what I tell women is just try to feel their pelvic floor, because oftentimes women cannot feel it. They cannot connect
Yes.
their brain to their pelvic floor, either because when they had babies, there was a stretch there and they never really completely reconnected with their
Mhm.
muscles, or because they had leaks for a long time. It's like easier to just ignore it and continue with your day. So a lot of women disconnect for this part of their body, so they cannot control it. And I feel that very strongly after 13 years helping women, that it's important to reconnect from within before using a machine.
Gotcha.
If it doesn't work, then I would use a machine. But I must say that once I have, because I have been taught to use a machine, and I did use it when I started, but women were getting results much quicker when they really reconnected by themselves and not necessarily having my hands to help them using a machine, because once you get it inside your
Right.
body, then you can use it when you lift your groceries or when you lift your kids or grandkids. That's when you can really use it in
Yes.
your everyday activities, and that's really the point. The point is not being able to do exercise on your back. The point is to be able to use it while you do what you love to do in your life.
Yeah, functional movement. And
Yeah.
that's what we talk about all the time, even for exercising. When you get to midlife, which is most of my audience, that we're talking about exercising for functional movement. Can you get off the floor without using your hands or, the table or the chair? So all of these things are so connected together. So if somebody wants to get in touch with you, because yeah, eye-opening stuff here, how can they do that?
Well, I think the easiest place to find me is on my website. So it's my name, www.juliedemers.com. And there you can find free resources. I have a free training that explains really the 4 steps to reconnect to your pelvic floor and have a healthy pelvic floor. So, the first step is bringing awareness, but there's also 3 other steps. So if you want to learn them, the free training would be a good place to go. And I have all kinds of props to show how it works. And I think that's a good place to go. I have a Facebook group and I also have a YouTube channel, but you can find them on my website. So I think the website is a good place to start.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for joining us today, Julie. This was such a good conversation. We could go on and on. Gonna have to have you back for another go around later, but I appreciate your time. You guys, if you want more information, you have the links. They should be down below. So have a great rest of your day, and thanks for joining us on another Coach's Corner.